Is Auburn's draw really that bad? Let's talk about it.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
All right. Charlie 5, as he likes to be affectionately known as, master of the boog. I like that, by the way.
There you
Pretty
go.
impressive. You see it right there. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the rundown. And I think that I'm becoming more and more frustrated with some Auburn fans that I call new basketball fans. And the reason being is because they're upset with Auburn's draw. And I don't know why they're upset with it, because if they go, well, we could be facing Louisville. Well, we could be facing Florida, Kentucky, and North Carolina. I mean, it could be so much.
Hey, I'll take some more North Carolina. Give me some.
I think everybody will take some North Carolina, right? I mean, North Carolina in a play-in game. And here's the bad part about that. This is off the rails a little bit. North Carolina fans should be upset at that because they wanted to fire Hubert Davis. He goes in and wins 2 games in this tournament, and they can't fire him. They're stuck with him for next year. But I will say I'm okay with the draw that they have. I think it could be worse. I told you Alabama could possibly be facing Vanderbilt in game 2, and having to beat them again is a tough ask. So what's your take on Auburn's draw as far as this tournament is concerned?
Look, every draw is tough. Every draw, there's no draw that's going to be just a cakewalk. I know that we're hung on the Louisville being in the same state as Lexington, and therefore we have to buy all of our tickets through the Louisville box office. Apparently, and we only get 1,000 seats, and it's going to be a Louisville home game. I don't think that's the case. Like that's not how this thing works. It's still a neutral site game.
Yeah.
Yes. It is in Kentucky, but Auburn fans travel. They travel. I said it earlier. We got 2,000 people in the Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Yeah.
And now I know that's sort of like a bucket list, but going to watch a game in Rupp Arena.
Rupp Arena is a bucket list too.
And you're going to have baseball there that weekend.
Yep.
Like there's going to be a pile of Auburn fans there all for the whole weekend. I don't want to get caught up. There's so much of this. Oh, Greg Byrne is on the selection committee, so Auburn's going to get screwed. And it's like you're set up already to be prepared to be screwed. That anything that happens is you're getting screwed. I don't think Louisville is that super intimidating. They got stroked by, I think, Ole Miss. I think they got beat by Tennessee.
Yeah,
they've only won 2 ranked games all year, lost to anybody with a pulse. And one of their ranked wins, Indiana, I'm not even sure Indiana made the tournament.
They did. No, they were a bubble team that did not. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think they made the tournament. And they were ranked 10 at the time. So that just knocks down the validity of that ranked win. And then who's to say they're going to beat Creighton? They're a 2.5. They're only a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
The ACC only got 4 teams in. I like Auburn's pathway. I like that matchup. I like either one of those matchups in the second round.
Yeah.
And then I said all along, I don't care what our overall seed is, as long as we get Atlanta.
Yeah.
If we get Atlanta, I'll play the Chicago Bulls. I don't care who it is. I want to be in Atlanta. We played really good in Lexington. We always play really good in that arena in Atlanta. I got to get past this. It's the world against us thing. Now, on the flip side, the team may need that mindset. The team seems to play a little bit better as the villain or the underdog.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you mentioned right there that stood out to me, the good vibes coming out of Lexington. Because the last time we were there, we ended a drought since 1988 and did so convincingly. I mean, it wasn't something
17 points or something like that.
Yeah, we didn't even have to worry about
really well.
And listen, if we even rebound the ball semi-decent in that game, Auburn probably wins by 25
30
at Lexington. So
yeah.
The vibes are there, and this team. This is what I like about Bruce setting up all these neutral site games in these big gymnasiums and playing Houston and the Rocket Stadium and headed to Atlanta to play and these big venues. That seems to be an issue when people go to Rupp. I don't know that that's an issue with this team. This team seems to do okay in a very large arena, because that's been some of the issues with past teams, is getting to these large arenas, and they talk about it all the time, depth perception. Everybody was talking about years ago, and they're going to be back. If you've ever been to that San Antonio Spurs arena that they're going to be playing in the Final Four,
yeah,
they actually shut off part of it. It could be bigger. They could sit more people in there. That place is absolutely enormous. So I think that is huge that Bruce did this during a lot of the I call them preseason games or pre-conference games, the neutral site game. I think that bodes well for Auburn.
I do. Again, it's kind of speaking to the narrative of that, we got screwed or we got the shaft. I do want that to be sold to this basketball team, because to me, some of the best basketball Auburn played was when we had to earn our way to be the number one in the AP poll, that when we're trying to go out and prove something, because we weren't getting the quote unquote respect. So if there's anything Bruce can do to lean into that, to motivate this team, they do seem to play. They do seem to play better that way. I mean, but this team's so good, man. All they got to do is just get that fire ignited again, and they can do things. I mean, he shot almost 50% from three when you played at Lexington. You played in Lexington the last time you played. That's got to feel good vibes, but considering you shot under 30% from three the last two games. So you go into a place where you can shoot. You're going to have a good crowd. It's probably going to be at least, I would imagine, 40 or close to 50% Auburn fans. I would say it's going to be a really big Auburn crowd. I love the pathway. Honestly, I love the pathway to the Elite Eight. I think the Elite Eight almost seems like anything less would be you drop the ball somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is it's not as bad as everybody thinks.
Not nearly as bad. No.
It was going to be.
Everybody, here's the one thing. Everybody was going to that. They did that graphic, and it was like they put the overall seed ranking beside the top four teams in each bracket, and Auburn's was the lowest. So it's like, oh, man, Auburn got the hardest draw. Well, they're also the number one. So, like, this less points than the others. So you start off lower because you're the number one overall seed. So you're going to have less points just in general. So that was a silly like hang on point. Like you're hung on that one. Florida, to me, has by far a tougher pull.
I think so as well.
A tougher out than Auburn, and Florida may be the best team in college basketball right now.
The way they're playing, I mean, they got it set up for them but they're gonna run into some roadblocks too. I mean, I two things. Are you shocked that you got two number one seeds out of the SEC? I'm not, because it's Florida and Auburn. Are you shocked that Auburn is an overall number one seed?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you played 33 games, and 24 of those games were against tournament teams. 21 out of your 33 games or whatever were quad one games. Mm-hmm. And you went 16-5. It's every single aspect that you can look at is like record breaking for this team. So there's no part of it whatsoever that shocked at all. I would have been way more shocked had Auburn not been the number one overall seed. But again, I didn't care as long as Auburn got the South. And for some reason, I was worried if Duke got it, they would choose the South. They would choose the South, but they would have. People assured me that they would choose the East regardless, which I guess apparently Duke has a lot of folks up in New Jersey, the New York area. That would be a big pull.
When they kept saying that, I didn't agree with it, and we'll never know. But I'm with you. I honestly did not think when they said the choice, I was like, "There's no way Duke's going to go Newark. They're going to choose Atlanta. It's just it's an easier trip. It's an easier drive. It's an easier flight in." So. It's odd to me that this team was still getting discredited all because people keep focusing on the last basically 4 games of the year, and Auburn losing 3 out of the last 4. And I just don't think that's fair, because the A&M game, Denver sits. It's on the road at A&M. A&M's known for their rebounding. It is what it is. The Alabama game, it took a last-second overtime shot in order for that to be happen, where if Auburn does what they're supposed to in regulation and maybe even has a different play call, which Jani Broom admitted he wishes he hadn't have shot the fadeaway and he would have gone down low.
But what if he makes that? Do you feel that much different?
Exactly. That's the thing.
99% of the game is played the exact same way.
Yeah.
If one play goes different, do you feel that much better because of one shot that went in?
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn played great in that game.
I thought so too.
Alabama played great too, and they hit a shot at the end. I mean, you lost on a buzzer beater at overtime against a 2 seed
with 90 plus points put up. I mean,
after you've already clinched the SEC, that's another thing that I want to ask Jason Williams, or Jay Williams, whatever he calls himself now. Does when you put out that no team has won the tournament after going losing 3 out of their last 4, did any of those have their season title clinched with 2 games left? Did you do that math? Did you do that research at all, or did you just have that one in the chamber ready to go?
He had it in the chamber, because that was my response to him. I quote tweeted him, and I got a lot of people that liked it as well, where I said, we talked about that, it being in the history, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. In the history, nobody's ever put 14 teams in the tournament, and that's the conference that Auburn was playing in. So
exactly,
you can throw that.
Teams.
You can throw that 14 out of 16 teams. By the way, the previous record 11. So they not only beat the record, they blew it out of the daggone water whenever they did it. So 14 out of 16 teams. So stick that in your pipe there, Jay, or Jason, or Mr. Williams, or whatever you want to call yourself. Speaking of which, let's transition a little bit. Let's talk. Spring football began yesterday.
Yeah.
Everybody and their brother wants to talk about quarterbacks. Okay, so tell me what we need to be watching besides the quarterbacks, because we know who the 2 quarterbacks in contention are.
Yeah.
We got that. We're good.
Yep.
So what else do we need to be watching?
So to me, there's like 3 big storylines, I think, that'll really, I guess, determine how, this season ends up playing out. And to me, it starts off at linebacker. Auburn has a ton of young, talented guys. There's no question about that. Like, you can't argue with the talent from a star level, from a ranking, whatever you want to look at, whatever recruiting service you want to look at. Auburn's stacked as far as talent goes, but they do lack experience in the middle. So what do? Does that guy emerge? Does Robert Woodyard become that guy this spring? He's kind of shown flashes at times. He's been here a while. Does he take that step forward and take over, or do you see Auburn have to go into the spring transfer portal after spring's over? I think that's storyline number 1. Storyline number 2 is going to be which running back emerges. You just don't have that number 1 guy. Auburn has always seemed to have the clear. I mean, can you remember the last time there wasn't just a clear-cut heir apparent? I got to go. Boobie Whitlow maybe. Way back in 2000 and I don't know, 18 or 19 or whenever it was after Carry On, there just hasn't been.
Maybe we still kind of knew.
Exactly.
Here we don't like.
We have no idea.
You're going to put 3 back there in the spring to fight it out, and then that's not even counting Omar Mapson, who's going to be joining in the fall, healthy too, by the way, whenever he comes in. So I think after spring, Kyle, we may not have a clear winner after spring, depending on what Omar does when he comes into the fall.
Exactly. And then you got Darrell Robinson too from UConn that's coming in. So which running back emerges? I think that's going to be a huge storyline. And then to me, Perry Thompson. I think there's going to be a storyline around Perry Thompson and how he fits in this just super elite wide receiver room that you have when you have Eric Singleton Jr., Cam Coleman, and Malcolm Simmons. Where does Perry Thompson's touches come into play? How do you get him the ball? And is his progression going to be enough to be able to hang with this room? So I think that's another big storyline because of all of the fanfare around landing him and stealing him from Alabama and being a big pull in state. you want to be able to hit on those guys, and you want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
have those guys be successful because it's a selling point.
Yeah.
Even though you're succeeding with Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons, you want to hit on all of them. So I think that's another big storyline. That's the ones I'm watching. Quarterbacks, like you said, you only got 2 guys. You only got 2 quarterbacks for spring. So you're going to see a ton of Deuce. You're going to see a ton of Jackson. We know Jackson's the guy. We like what Deuce has, what he brings to the table. You don't get Ashton Daniels until, summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just those 2 guys. So you're going to get a ton of you're going to get a ton of action out of both of them.
I will say this, and I said this with a previous discussion that I had with our mutual friend, Zach Blackerby. He was asking me who I saw make the biggest jump. Perry Thompson was my call. And as far as progression is concerned, and the reason being is just because he's had a chance to go through a fall. He's now going to have a chance to go through a spring, which he did not do last year.
He did not. That's true.
And so I just think once you get that many stars out by your name, Kyle, the talent's there.
Yeah.
The coaching staff has just got to find a way to put that talent in place and make sure that the rest of us see it like they've seen on tape. And he's just too big and too much of a super freak, in my opinion, to not be used in a very positive way. And now that role may change from what it was in high school, and he may not be the guy that's on the outside. As I said, I know we talked about Malcolm Simmons, but maybe when you put Perry in there at the slot, and maybe he does a drag across the middle, because I can tell you, hitting that guy is going to be a whole lot different than hitting a small receiver. I promise.
You got to bring your lunch. Yeah,
exactly. So I think we'll see. I think he'll be a good Swiss Army knife of things where they can either split him out, they can pull him in. Who knows? He could be that fair weather / tight end that's not really.
That's what I want to see him do.
Yeah.
He slimmed down. He lost some weight. And I'm like, I wish he would have stayed where he was. And then,
but didn't they say he gained muscle? Didn't they say even though he slimmed down?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. I doubt he just was on Ozempic and lost some weight.
So
I'm sure it's good.
That baby fat is gone. Maybe that's what
for sure. But man, I think that's a perfect Evan Ingram. That role. I mean, they're about the same size.
Yeah,
and have very similar athletic qualities. I don't think he's interested in that role. I think he wants to be, he wants to be a receiver, wants to be an outside receiver. So a little bit of it may be Perry's willingness to, compromise if he wants more playing time. So we'll see. But to me, that's the biggest storylines to watch out for.
What can get you to the league, Perry Thompson?
Bingo.
If the coaches get you to the league, it doesn't matter if you're playing tight end, if you're split out wide, or dadgummit, if you can punt, we'll put you back there as well. I mean, whatever can get you to the league, take that train and run with it.
See Keontae Scott.
Yes, exactly.
Don't go to outside corner and you're drafted.
Yeah.
If you stay at nickel, you're probably one of the top nickels drafted.
See, that's an unbelievable comparison. So as Top Button Tuesday, each and every week, we appreciate it, as always. And thanks for also having me on your show as well. How about that?
Thank you.